idea exactly. So item number 1 is calling the meeting to order. Is there any, is there any participation from the public? Anybody chiming in? Or is Julie, are you in as your public self or not? You're
No, I think I have the warrants at the end on the environmental committee.
okay. So I think we've blasted through the first 2. A motion to approve the minutes. The October.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, sure.
before we do that, I would ask that if the indulgence of the finance committee to give a moment of silence for Buddy Ianazzo, who was a former member of our committee, served many years on the finance committee, was a great guy, but was a great help to me in my early years, especially with MEMA issues. He was the deputy director of MEMA. I know there were a number of board members that he, in the early days, he also counseled. So I would have asked indulgence for a moment of silence for Buddy, who passed away at the age of 82. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good, Steve. I was going to mention that myself.
Thank you,
I had not heard
Bill had
that.
actually let me know as well. I think my paper girl didn't deliver the paper properly that day. My daughter, so I can badmouth it. So with that, a motion to approve the minutes of both the September 17th, 2020 Finance and Forecasting Subcommittee meeting minutes and to approve the October 1st, 2020 regular Finance Committee meeting minutes.
Can we do those separately? Because the forecasting subcommittee is just 3 members.
Okay, sure. All right, we'll make the motion to approve the forecasting subcommittee meeting minutes.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
All right,
That's Dan.
Second.
Joanne.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. And now, can you make the motion to approve the October minutes, Dan?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, well, that being done, I think we're off to item 4, fiscal year 2020.
If
Good year it was.
what a year it was. If I can ask a second indulgence, and it's up to Councilor Galvin. I'm really going to throw a lot of curveballs at you, Doug. If you don't want to hang on for the meeting, Councilor Smith Galvin, we could, with the indulgence of the chair, move up your items to right now.
I'm good.
You're good to hang
As long
on?
as I can multitask, sure,
Okay, no problem then.
I'm fine. It'll be my first FinCom meeting.
There'll be a quiz afterwards. Sure.
Okay, Doug.
All right, yeah, the year it was in fiscal year 2020, and it's certainly not indicative of any other year. Hopefully everybody received the report of the town administrator on all of the departments and what they returned to the town, what they encumbered. Want to thank Kevin Gill, who does the most work on this, puts it together and shows us where we're going. And at the end of the day, a lot of money was returned to the town. I will tell you in a nutshell, there were a couple of reasons why. Number one was there was a delay in hiring in some positions. I know that the acting chair tonight likes that. And particularly in the police department, we had a number of police officers at the academy and what have you that weren't getting through because of COVID. So we didn't hire them. So that helped out there. Other items is any overtime that we had, particularly in public safety. We had a number of officers that were exposed. In early days, if they were exposed to COVID, we certainly quarantined them for a lengthy period of time. They were covered with overtime covered them. That overtime was all reimbursed through the CARES Act, and we received that reimbursement in fiscal year 20. So that replenished those accounts. Overtime in DPW was virtually non-existent because we only did emergency projects, again, because of the COVID. Other than that, those are kind of the key areas why these things happen. We also continue to do a good job with health and group health insurance, moving people off of the more expensive plans. And again, we saw a return of about 529,000 there. So those are the key areas. We did encumber a lot of money, particularly in public works. And that was mainly for projects and what have you that didn't get done in fiscal year 20 because of COVID, that are getting done as we go through now. Education, you'll have to talk to Doug about that. But he also encumbered a lot of items that were done in the next fiscal year. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I am grateful that we returned money to the town. I think Finance Committee returned about 125,000, if I'm correct. Fire away.
Steve,
This is not one that you vote on, so go ahead.
the move of, the healthcare to cheaper plans, what was
Yeah.
the long-term sort of, as you look back on that process of moving people over, was there much negative feedback to you
No.
from the people who are, in those plans?
From the employees?
Yeah.
No, the employees absolutely loved it because they had essentially the same doctors, the same co-pays, the same prescription drug pays. It's just that their premiums were higher in the same hospital. So really, people were thrilled with that.
Because their premiums came down.
Because the premiums came down and there was no downside to it. It's when you go into the GIC, there's all these number of plans, there's a Harvard plan, there's a neighborhood health plan. And then you go through the list of doctors and the doctors are the same. So why not save money on your premium? So no, that's been actually very well received. The other item is that that we do have the opt-out program, and you have to be on our plan for a while to opt out, and that's worked well too. And also with hirings being delayed this year, no hirings, there were some health plans that we didn't put on because they weren't hired yet. So that's actually been a huge success story, and I give our human resources department great credit because they sit down with virtually every employee to go over it.
It's kind of hard to quantify how powerfully helpful that whole thing was, getting into the GIC, and the amount of money that we have not had to spend that other towns are spending today because they didn't.
Well,
And I put that on you, Steve.
Oh, thank you.
In a good way.
No, this was we had that, we had those buttons years ago, right? Got OPEB. I think that's how you quantify it. We were able to put what, $18 million now into OPEB, Kevin? And yeah, and that's really from, managing the healthcare system. But thank you. That was great support of the town council and the FinCom.
Speaking of which, we should probably have that number, the last 7 years, given what it grew at in the past. Just a ballpark number that you could mention at town meeting that, the town has been able to save this much money, which has been plowed into this OPEB, so the employees don't get upset thinking that it's on their backs, but it's really, really providing for their future as well.
Right, absolutely. And actually, I mentioned that always in the spring town meeting, but actually the employee committee, the public employee committee actually is very happy and really looks at our OPEB numbers. And it's kind of interesting to see a group of union members saying, no, we want to make sure you keep putting money into OPEB. We get it. So that's been a success story.
Steve, Dennis Hogan, have
Yes.
you had any strange or additional workers' comp claims, seeing we've been working at home?
Well, actually, those numbers have gone very far down. We're having a record year in workers' comp, lack of workers' comp claims. John Spinello sends us updates every month. Another big part of it is we also had a kind of a mild winter, so we didn't have a lot of slip and falls. So less people that are working and going to and from work that's helping us. So I haven't had any strange ones coming in. You mean like carpal tunnel and things like that?
Yeah.
No, I don't think we've had any. Kevin, have you seen any of those come across your desk?
Oh, it's been as you said, great year so far.
Yeah. So hopefully that'll bring our mod down. That should help us in the years, coming forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Steve,
Yeah.
I'm not sure everybody's monitoring to raise your hands, but I put my hand up and
Oh,
I'll jump in. So I'm curious about two items. One is the unemployment insurance has got at $26,000 encumbered. I'm
yes.
just wondering why that amount is such a large amount and why the delay in that.
Well, I'm not so sure that the finance committee knows this, but what Kevin wisely did, and jump in if I'm wrong, Kevin, is that we did not receive an unemployment bill from the state from March until August. So some of those expenditures would normally be, and we knew that we had some that were normally going to be paid because of previous unemployment. So I think what Kevin did is run that through and said, let's encumber some of that because we know it's going to be there. What we've also experienced in unemployment, so that's why there's some encumbered. It's kind of very odd to get that, but it was because we didn't receive any bills. When we did receive the bills in August for all the way back to, March, there was a lot of unemployment in there that we are contesting, because A, there's been a lot of fraud, and B, there's a lot of people that maybe work second jobs, and their second job was showing up on the town, or they were trying to collect, the state was trying to collect from the town, because we're a pay as we go. So we've been fighting all of those. Any unemployment that we had that was COVID related, we are going for reimbursement through the CARES Act and through FEMA, because that is a reimbursable expense.
Okay, so then so we don't know why the school is encumbered
I don't
831,000.
have a breakdown. Do you, Kevin, on the schools?
I do have something back in the office that I can get to Dan if he wants it.
Okay, and then on the group health, the 529,000 is a lot more than what we expected. I think, Kevin, weren't we expecting about $300,000 to be revert back to general revenue? So we picked up 250 or so.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. That what happens every year, the PEC votes a premium holiday for the employees. And to pay for that, they tap into their HRA account and they reimburse that back to the health insurance budget. But we budget it in the budget because we don't know if the PEC is going to vote that every year. So
Okay.
where they did vote it this year, they gave us that money back to the town.
So then,
that increased the balance in what got returned.
okay. So what's left over, the 15,000?
I know that one. That's for
Evaluation.
OPEB evaluation.
Ah, of course, our friends at Siegel.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm good.
You good, Mr. Chairman? Did we lose you? We lose Doug? Oh, there he is.
Doug,
Just
you're
was
muted.
unmuted, sorry. I don't see anybody else's hand up. Does anybody have further questions for Dan on this?
This is online, so please, if you have any questions, contact me, contact Kevin. We can help you out.
All right, so we are on, I guess we are on to the votes. Joe, are you slightly warmed up? So we will start with Article 2.
Yes, Article 2, free cash. We've talked about this. It's been in our forecast. We'll be looking for 2 million in free cash for the assessors to compute the tax rate for fiscal year 2021. You want to take a motion and then we can have discussion? Motion second, Mr. Chair.
Sure, a motion to move, I'm sorry, I was looking at the articles summary, at the articles
I got
tab
it.
that I would do. Oh, you got it this, Joe?
Yeah, I move that we approve the amount of $2,000.
I hope it's 2 million.
I'm 2 million, sorry. Glasses sometimes don't work at my age. $2 million in free cash for computing the tax rate for fiscal year 2021.
Second.
22.
Who seconded that?
Discussion?
Evan? Okay.
Give Evan. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can you not? Am I gone again?
No, you're here.
Nope.
Okay. All right, so we're, sorry, I'm trying to juggle amongst the screens and doing it badly. Article 3, the high school feasibility study.
Yes, this is very exciting. This is I guess the last step of the first module with the state to apply for a feasibility, fund the feasibility study to get to, I guess it's schematic design, right, Joe?
Right.
So the SBA can certainly, we can move forward and get a new or renovated high school through the SBA. This is the same step we did with Galvin. And we will be bonding this, and it will get rolled into the whole project at the end. And it's $2 million for a feasibility study.
I might add, it's more in schematic design. What it is that for the MSBA, you have to actually go through every iteration that you can think of, whether it's renovation, location, every single thing, very similar to what we did with the Galvin. Is very extensive. It lasts, according to the MSBA, 20 to 24 months. So it's not something that happens quickly at all. It's a very detailed, and all of the options are put forward by the design team and the owner's project manager. The permanent building committee will be handling it along with the school advisory committee that was appointed. The figure of $2 million, we actually researched it from the various high school projects around, recently, such as from Stoughton, Billerica, Winchester, and Arlington. All of them were between 1.7 million and $2 million. The more recent one from Billerica, which is a similar type size high school, was a feasibility study request for $2 million, and that's why it's at $2 million.
Okay. All right, Joe, you're on.
Any questions? I move the sum of $2 million to be applied to Article 3 through the debt service fund.
Second.
Actually, it's through a borrowing.
Oh, okay, through borrowing.
We'll eventually get there, but we got to borrow first.
Second.
Yeah, I'll still second. This is Dan.
All right, so we'll give Dan that second.
Okay.
And any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
I have that unanimous for the record.
Unanimous. On Article 4, the veterans exemption. So we have 2 articles on veterans exemptions.
Yes, Article 4 allows veterans to and it's anybody that's a disabled veteran, they often will want to put their property into a trust. They can then get an abatement or actually an exemption on their taxes. But if the property is in a trust under the existing state law that the town has adopted, they can't get that exemption. So what adopting this statute allows that if the disabled veteran puts their property in a trust, they can get an exemption on their real estate taxes. This particular exemption is paid for by the state. We get reimbursed on our cherry sheet. So this is really just helping our veterans that happen to be disabled and for other financing reasons have their property in a trust that they couldn't take advantage of this before. So it's really a net zero to the town.
I'll move approval.
Second.
A move favorable action, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this isn't a
Yeah.
dollar amount, right?
No, favorable action, yeah.
Recommend favorable action.
Second.
Discussion. I guess the only question is could there be, somebody's a trustee but not living there? Could they potentially take the benefit? Or does it have to be their primary domicile?
I don't know the answer to that question. Victor will though, and
I
I'll
just
have-
always wonder about the way, like, what sort of, how does somebody end up in the paper for cheating the system in this way? So I guess that's always the concern.
Yeah.
All right,
Not
but
that
other
it was
than
as
that,
deep as you are, but we can check into that.
yeah,
Steve, team, one other thing I was thinking is whether if the trust has multiple beneficiaries, how do we take that into account?
I'll have to check on that for you, Teray.
but given that, I don't have much of an issue with it because frankly, it's not us writing the check, but it does seem like you wouldn't want to, you just wouldn't want to have it be
Yeah.
something that ended up being skirted.
I'm 99% sure that the primary beneficiary and the owner needs to be
The same.
and the resident of the house needs to be.
Yeah,
the veteran.
okay. That's what I figured. All right, that was discussion. Any further discussion? Any no hands? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So that's unanimous as well, Steve. Article 5, which is,
Article 5.
this is the Gold Star family one.
This is the Gold Star parent. Then they would be exempt from paying taxes. I will tell you that right now, we don't have any, we're not aware of any that are residing in Wakefield. This particular one is not reimbursable by the state, as the first one is. However, I think this is certainly the proper thing to do. And we could certainly revisit it, but I can't imagine why we would not want to help a Gold Star parent in this way.
I move favorable action.
Second.
So,
Set.
Discussion.
so
Oh.
do we have any idea? So I think sort of Steve said he doesn't know of anybody, but I gotta believe that there might be some in this town.
We used to have one or two Gold Star parents that sadly have passed away. I do not know of any others.
So at most, this would be roughly what, $7,000 on average per
Right.
family?
Yeah, probably 5,600.
Do
we-
other towns do this?
Yes, yeah, this is adopting a state statute.
Yeah, I guess my concern on this, and I think Gerard also had his hand up, is that, does that, create, again, the perverse incentive for somebody who's a Gold Star family to move here because they don't have to pay any property taxes?
Yeah.
Really?
So, yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think that's like, that's a fair question, like,
No, I don't think it is. I'd welcome them without their revenue. I don't think their revenue has to be attached. And especially if we're not aware of any Gold Star parents, then I don't even think your question's valid, Doug, with all due respect. It's not even statistically worth talking about.
But in the chairman's defense, we should be picky uni about any impact to revenue, I think. It was probably Doug's point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing that this could be a $50,000 to $100,000 item that we're just sort of not paying any attention to, that we're just sort of saying yes to because we're not, because it seems like it's not going to be a thing, but it certainly could be a thing.
It could become a big thing.
But, yeah.
If I may, I think, Steve, didn't you mention that it's a state statute?
Yes.
So I would assume that other municipalities and other towns have adopted this.
Yes.
So I don't think we're going to have a flood of rush of Gold Star parents here if other communities have adopted this as well.
I would
And
agree.
God forbid, right?
Right.
I don't know. We got to get a lot, we got to fill those plates. We got to fill Converse. So,
Those are rentals anyway.
those,
So how do we, is there a way to prove somebody is a Gold Star parent? I mean, how does that go about?
Well, I know that Victor has reached out and has not had anybody, because people come into veterans benefits all the time.
Yeah,
Had no one come in that has been turned away because of this, but felt it was a good idea to have it just in case. So I guess we're proving it by a negative.
Well, there is a Gold Star registry though, right? The Defense Department does maintain. Don't question me on the particulars, but I do think there is a degree of formality in the program, Dan.
good to know.
Do you just have the provision of MGL? Do you have it in front of you?
Yes. I do.
And I won't do this now, but I'll, look it up for what it's worth.
It is
We do have a lawyer on the committee now.
Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 22H.
Thanks.
oh yeah, and the domicile, because then I got into being scared if somebody bought Converse who was a Gold Star parent, and then they'd be exempted from property taxes entirely. So that would be a problem, but that isn't the case.
No.
All right. I think I can get that. I don't love voting on things we don't have numbers on, but sure. I think any further discussion? I don't see any hands up. And this is also, because we don't have a straight number, this is not a transfer. This
No, it's just favorable action.
right,
Favorable action.
action. Yeah. All right. All in favor of favorable action on Article 5?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Moving right along. Where are we now? Article 7, legal settlement.
Okay.
It's me ill.
I'm gonna read this one
Yeah.
for a couple minutes unless you don't want me to. So anyways, what I'm gonna read is gonna talk about the history and rationale, and I believe that the entire Finance Committee has this. Between the town's proposal to purchase approximately 11 acres of land at 94 Butler Ave in Wakefield. The property is currently owned by the Woods LLC, which acquired the property in 2017 from the Taylor family, who own the land since 1951. And the Woods intended to develop a residential subdivision. In the process of acquiring the property, the Woods discovered that approximately 1.5 acres are contaminated with asbestos, among some other substances. And the Massachusetts DEP ordered Woods to clean up the property and obtain a permanent solution to the asbestos contamination. That solution, which was completely removal of asbestos in the area, trucking it away, taking it to a certified hazardous waste site. The estimates for that were about $3.6 million. Woods has alleged that the asbestos contamination was caused, at least in substantial part, by disposal of the debris from the former Atwell School, which was destroyed by fire in 1971. They allege that town employees arranged for the debris to be dumped in a low-lying area in the property, and the debris caused or significantly contributed to asbestos contamination. The Woods asserts that there are no witnesses who saw the debris being transported to the dump property at the time. However, they have since come up with people that said they saw trucks going there. So the Woods made demand upon the town in December of 2017 under Mass 21E, Merry Christmas. And we entered into probably 2 years worth of negotiations to talk about that. Eventually, we could not reach that negotiation, and they did file suit under 21E in Middlesex Superior Court in November of 2019. And I just wanted for the record that the town vigorously contests the Woods allegations. However, it may be responsible for us to settle the lawsuit to avoid the significant costs of litigation and the risk of actually losing, not to mention attorney's fees, and potentially responsibility for the Woods attorney's fees and their costs. So we had a number of meetings, and what we have, one of it which was, why do we need to remove that whole area and dump it away for 3.5 million? Why can't we cap it? Woods insisted that that was not going to be allowed by the DEP. We actually forced a meeting with DEP, and they were very open to our plan of capping the land area and applying for an area use limitation, which would be about $500,000 versus 3.6 million. So what we are proposing is that we would, and we've already received conceptual approval from the DEP for this capping. We are proposing that we purchase the entire property for $2.1 million, $85,000 of which is from an insurance settlement. Woods will also assign its claim under an environmental insurance policy that they have that is $1 million that should cover the entire cost of the removal of the capping, I should say, which is $500,000. That's part of the deal. The town will then just decide whether we maintain it or we sell it for the remaining area. We could keep it for green space, or we could sell it, which is, I think, where I'm leaning. And I think we would recoup our $2 million, and maybe even be a little bit in the black at the end of the day. One thing that the Woods group wanted, and we agreed, is that if the town resells the property within 3 years for more than the amount that is paying to the Woods, it will evenly share the proceeds of the sale of, after accounting for any costs associated with the resale and any out-of-pocket cleanup costs with the Woods, up to a cap of $200,000. And I'm very good at dragging my feet and adding fees in, just so you know. And what we do get is we get the entire piece of property. We'll have something cleaned up. We will be the only responsible party there. We won't be in partnership with anybody else but us. And both Tom Mullen feels, Anderson and Krieger, who is our attorney on this venture, and the town council, CIL, feel that when to limit the town's financial exposure compared to the litigation and with the property at the end of the day, this is probably the best of a bad deal. And we're looking to bond this, and it'll be a 2/3 of town meeting. I know we haven't been very, hasn't been a lot on this in the public because we're in negotiations, of course. So it was executive session material, but now it is public. That's in a nutshell.
So Steve, can I just ask how sure, and I don't know if you can answer this, but how sure are you that the level of contamination that you've discovered thus far is the extent of the contamination?
They completed a 21E in all the other areas of the property where I am very reasonably sure that this is the area. I'm really very sure, I should say.
So I see the chair just left. So Doug, Steve.
Yes.
So Steve, I'm a little fuzzy on the numbers, and
Okay.
help me out. So we're going to spend 2.15 million to buy,
Yes.
right? We're going to spend $500,000 to cap.
Yes.
Okay.
We hope.
And then reimbursement is 85,000.
Well, yeah, there is an insurance policy that we had, that the town had, that went back many years for $85,000, and that's our money. In fact, I already have the check. So that would be applied to the purchase price.
Okay.
Right.
And what else is offsetting this cost?
Well, the $500,000 to cap, all right, would be covered through an assignment of Woods's environmental insurance for cleaning up the property. They have
Okay,
a $1 million policy.
So it's $1 million policy, but it would only cover the 500,000.
Only cover, yes, the environmental cleanup.
Okay, so we subtract 500,000. So now we have, we're in this thing for 2.235 million.
No,
No?
no, we're purchasing it for $2,150,000.
Right, the 500 goes away. We subtract 85. Oh, I added it.
Yes,
Sorry.
we added it. $2,065,000 we're in.
Okay. So, and how many acres do we own?
The entire parcel is 11 acres.
11 acres.
11, and approximately 1.5 acres are contaminated with asbestos.
Okay, so what's usable now is down 9.5 acres that we could sell.
Right.
So 9.5 acres for $2 million in Wakefield. Yeah, we could come out okay.
Yeah. No, we've
Okay.
run a few scenarios about whether, and this is something that we'll have to have discussion on. I mean, are we going to look to try to do over 55 housing? Are we going to try to do affordable housing? What are we going to do? We'll have to have some discussions on that. But there is ample land, because they had a subdivision going through here that had many lots in it, many million.
Yeah, I remember the many lots. I remember the diagrams.
Yeah.
That they had quite a bit. And
I think we'd be looking to be a little bit more.
so the 2.065 million would be a borrowing?
Yeah, we would borrow it with the hopes of, flipping it within, 3 years if we're gonna make a lot of money, 2 if we're not.
Right, yeah, I get it. Okay, very good, thanks.
So. All right, so we're buying these folks out.
Right, and by the way, we're also getting rid of the lawsuit.
Yeah, we're getting.
By
rid
the
of the
way, we get rid of the
lawsuit.
lawsuit at the same time, yeah.
We get rid of the lawsuit, we're giving them, about $850,000 on top of what they paid.
Okay,
In 2017.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess that's my concern. They're taking something they paid 1.3 for, selling it to us for 2.1.
right, and but they've also, incurred a lot of engineering costs, legal fees, what have you. for this whole thing.
But that would be written off anyway as the cost of the lot. So,
Still money they spent, though.
Yeah.
Plus their claim of lost profit because of our alleged illegal dumping. And our exposure could be much, much higher if we were to lose a lawsuit on this.
Do we think, I mean, obviously, town council thinks that it would be likely. Or
Yes,
at
well,
least
yeah.
reasonable.
Town council Mullen, who will present this at town meeting, feels this is the best possible of a bad situation.
I guess that is the question. Do we think we'd lose more than 2.1 million? It has nothing to do with what we're writing a check and we're ending up with property that we don't necessarily want.
Yeah, but don't forget about the school desks that they found in that hole.
Allegedly.
The school desk. Yeah, I don't care. I mean, it's more just, could they win $2 million is what the question would be.
Yeah, he's saying that's persuasive evidence of involvement, Doug.
No, I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying, like, could they win $2 million? And I guess the thing for us is if they cap it off, like, I'd be hard pressed to see how they'd win that much against us, but fine. I mean, this is not, I think it feels like paying somebody to go away. And then we're gonna hope that we can either sell it or keep, I mean, I don't know, what do we want that green space on Butler Ave for? No offense if you're on Butler Ave, but it's not, it's not a compelling piece of land for anything other than like subdivisions.
Hey, Doug, just for the record, I'm trying to raise my hand and get in queue to ask a question. I think
Okay.
Stefan and Amy are in there.
Yep, Stefan is up next.
I can't seem to do it on my end, so if I could be in the queue, I'd appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah, so there was one other piece of this that I wanted to mention too, is that if we do sell the property, that it'll be another 200K that the Woods is looking from the town. So I guess that would need to be included in the calculation as well.
200K of profit.
Of profit?
Of profit.
Mhm.
They would want to split the profit with us up to a cap of 200K.
Okay. So, I mean, we would just need to sell the property for 200K more than what we bought it for.
Well, if we
Minus
sold it-
fees
if
and
we
all
sold it for 200K more than we bought it for, they would get 100, we would get 100.
Oh, 50-50.
50,
Okay.
up to the maximum they would get is 200K.
Okay. I mean, just so we're clear, what exactly is the lawsuit requiring or wanting from the town? Just to remediate?
They would want to maximize their profit. They would want us to pay for the complete cleanup of the area, because then they could have a huge subdivision, right, and maximize their profit. So that's in the $4 million range.
So, and how is that excavation cost estimated? Because you mentioned $4 million in the letter, but then you also just mentioned 3.5 and 3.6
Well,
as an
3.6
estimated cost.
plus extras on top of it. We had experts look at it, what it would cost to haul it away, to take it to a site, all, to reclaim it, all that stuff. And then you'd own it forever. Well, it could come back to us eventually,
Well, if we remediated the site, essentially it would still be under the Woods ownership. Is that correct?
Right, if we purchase it, it's under ours.
Mhm.
If we were forced to pay them to remediate it, then yeah, they would own it and we would give them $3 million. We'd have to cover the costs.
Okay. Because so what I just done some quick research on this thing, and based on what I see, and please correct me if I'm wrong if I misspeak, but the Woods is looking to subdivide this, and it looks like into 16 separate lots of various sizes. Given these sizes, if you assume a potential average sale price of like 900K, that ends up being essentially the tax basis for each of these units. Given just today's current residential tax rate, you're looking at 184K approximately in annual revenue, just on residential tax alone. I mean, present value terms of that, I mean, maybe $1.8 million. You just multiply it by 10, just back of the envelope, present value calculation. I mean, I guess that's what we would be potentially foregoing. And I just wanted to bring that out into the open as something to consider, because I think like someone else had mentioned that, okay, we give them a bunch of money to walk away. I mean, it's a pretty hefty profit margin that we're giving them. And I'm just curious if there's any possible way that we were able to remediate the site and potentially correct a historical wrong that, that none of us here at least is responsible for. In order for this company to continue along its essentially originally planned route, build all of these units, increase the tax base, and then move on. Yeah, I guess that just from a holistic standpoint, I guess there's costs that are immediate, And it's easy for us to just pay someone to go away, as someone mentioned. But I think it, push comes to shove, if the town is required to remediate a site in a historical wrong, is it really going to cost us $3.6 million? Or can we be creative in how we remediate the site? Do we have to pay Woods to remediate the site, or can we do it on our own and direct with the vendor and potentially saving some money? I guess I have a lot of questions with this. I'm not sure I would support approving this article as it is.
One thing I would point out, I agree with you on the potential of tax revenue, but that's going to be there if we were to flip the property anyway. Right. And I do not want to enter into any sort of partnership, which is what we would be doing when we remediate it with them, or they let us work on their property, what have you, with another entity. I would be very suspect of that. So my thought process is in big bold strokes, we have a potential $3.5–4 million problem that I think at the end of the day, when we run through this, we're going to end up I think in the black, personally, at the end of the day, and get the tax revenue when we sell.
Okay, and I'm just curious also, follow-up question for the cap. What does that entail? Capping a site, and we're talking about 1.5 acres of
Right.
Of cap. I don't know.
Right, there would be a section of that area that would be capped, meaning that it would be covered over. It might have some sort of environmental barrier put under it, whether it's plastic or something like that. Then that area would be issued what's called an AUL, or an area use limitation. So you take off 1.5 acres of there. That might just be an open field. It might just be pathways. It might be, wildflowers. So would not be able to use. Councillor Smith Galvin is on the lucky her is on the line, and she may want to. She's been in a lot of meetings on this too. She may want to chime in if that's okay, Mr. Chair.
I mean, I'm not sure I have a whole lot to add, except that we have been talking about this at least the almost 3 years I have been on, and we have run through all the different scenarios. And I definitely think that the consensus was that the risk of going to trial on this outweighs settling it, not only from a financial, which is obviously super important, also, as Steve mentioned, kind of the partnership type thing and the unknowns that would be there. This has been a very difficult counterparty. And we didn't want to get into that. And then we thought we would have some control once it is remediated to think about what we want to do with that land. And I agree, it may not be right for open space, but maybe there is some sort of housing or facility that we could use that space for, and we would have a lot more control of that, and hopefully get some tax revenue out of it as well. So that's my 2 cents.
One last point is that I guess the town's cheap way of handling this situation is putting a cap on it, but whatever that might mean. But essentially making the land essentially not usable. I mean, I don't want to live next to a hazmat site. That's what it's essentially doing. That's what the town is doing. I mean, should the town do the right thing and remediate a historical wrong? I feel like we're this is not a correct solution the way that we're approaching this.
In your opinion?
Yes, my opinion, totally my opinion.
Amy?
Oh, my question actually got answered, because I was going to ask about the amount of space that wouldn't be usable because of the cap and sort of what that entailed. So it already got covered.
Okay, thanks. Gerard, you're up.
Yeah, so Stefan actually tabled the first part of my question. The other part was going to be about capping as well. And Steve, how predictable are the costs of capping? Are there complexities much like we talk about in other kind of build or capital type projects? Do we have to, as we consider this from a financial perspective, think about whether the cost of capping is in fact predictable and stable, or is that an X+1, X+2 kind of thing, you know what I mean? Is it?
No,
really
no, I do.
modeled?
I do know that we did hire through Anderson Krieger, our own environmental engineering firm. We did have meetings with DEP, which the Woods people fought us tooth and nail. They didn't want to do that. And they're very confident in their analysis that it's about $500,000.
Okay.
And we have potentially up to $1 million in an environmental policy.
Got it. Thanks, Steve.
Doug, Dennis Hogan, does,
Oh, sorry, I didn't see your hand.
well, I didn't put it up.
Yeah, all right, that's fine. All right.
As far as Woods go, do they have first right of refusal to buy the property? I didn't
No.
see any of that noted there.
No, nobody does. Nobody has right of first refusal. If we would have settled and take possession, no. We would, if we were to sell it, we would go out to bid. I think my advice would be working with the town council, and that would have to go back to town meeting, by the way, because it would be a sale of town-owned land, is to come up with what we think is the best solution there. Maybe it's 16 units. Yeah, maybe it's 32 units with townhouses or something that are more affordable. And then have that all pre-permitted and sell that to someone to buy it and build it. That would be my opinion.
Are we gonna have a layout showing where the 1.5 is,
Yes,
with a potential as to what the
yes.
lot layout was gonna be, so that you can see how many houses you basically will have lost,
Yes,
2 or 4?
yep, we've looked at that.
Okay, thank you.
One question from me, Steve, on the, I didn't see anybody else's. Stefan, is your hand still up or no? Oh, Brian, go ahead.
My question is around your seeming lack of desire, Steve, to work with these guys. It seems like they haven't been exactly straightforward with you in their dealings with you. Is that fair to say? Like the idea of going in on a partnership with them is not particularly appealing given the way that they've interacted with you thus far.
I would say I wouldn't want to be in a partnership with anybody. on
That's
the
fair.
But your instincts are probably very correct.
May I ask what type of partnership would be required in this, in a potential cleanup?
If we were to hang in there with them and they were to, let's say they were to clean it up. All right, they buy it, we pay them money, they clean it up, right? How do I know that that was ever done correctly? How do I know they didn't cut corners? How do I know that whoever did it didn't take that to a site that was not proper, a dumping site that was not proper, and then it comes back around and comes back to us later on and we're never off the hook. This way I kind of feel like I know we can end this completely.
Well, I find that a little difficult to believe because the DEP
Happens,
is
I tell you,
already
Stefan, it
involved.
happens to people all the time. Happens to companies that have waste oil and they think they're taking their waste oil away to a certified site. And then all of a sudden, 10 years later, the people that are running that site do something wrong or they didn't do it right or something happened and then they get a bill in the mail that you owe, in their case, $50,000, $100,000 because they were a little part, but a lot of people got that bill. So, I mean, I'm just saying I like the things to be clean and done and we've done what we could and we can be out of it. I'd hate to leave people 10 years down the road to get this.
So I just have one comment to make though. A few years ago, I completed the restoration of a historical property and it required me to, it happened to have an asbestos roof. But there's very specific guidelines that you need to go through in order to get rid of the asbestos. And it can really only go one of 2 places in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. I think with the DEP involved already, I think this lawsuit actually provides us with the ability to negotiate, not having a partnership at all with Woods and saying, we're going to clean this, we're going to clean it, we'll take care of it at our expense. We can do it under bond. And then at the end of the day, the town gets the the certification from the DEP that it's clean. We have a clean bill of sale, and then we just give it to the woods, and then we're done with it. And so, people don't have to live next to a hazmat forever.
No, and I think that that's, yeah, I guess my only question to you, Steve, is you said that, the woods don't have the right of first refusal, and sort of following on to Brian's, is it possible to write in there that they can't buy it back?
That's certainly not the deal that we made. I don't think I'd write that in there because I don't think I'd care at that point.
I just meant not the woods, and none of the parties involved who own the woods.
Yeah.
That nobody with any affiliation, because again, what you don't want to have is you don't want to have, like, if people are selling it, then you don't want them, turning around and using the money, using the profits they gave you to,
I think that what we're kind of mixing up what's happening here is that the woods got a subdivision approved for a number of large lots, $1 million homes or $900,000 homes. That requires that area, that 1.5 acres, to be clean and being reused. So you've got to take all the asbestos out, take it somewhere. That's a $3.5 million, $4 million proposition that is being alleged is our fault. We're the potentially responsible party on that. Plus legal fees that we'd have to pay and everything. So maybe that's how I got to the 400,000. They don't want to deal, Wood does not want to build that different type of subdivision. So that's the big part of it. That's what the suit would be about.
Okay. And by the way, like, I mean, I know we're all talking about asbestos here, but like asbestos in the ground, it's not the Love Canal, people. It's just, it's, nobody's going to be going down and breathing it in. So I think I wouldn't categorize it as living next to a toxic waste dump.
Well, I think the concern
but-
there with
all right.
asbestos in the ground is the fact that if you run a lawnmower over it, it becomes airborne. I mean, it's you said that they found a
Yeah.
desk in the middle of the ground.
I didn't say that.
Listen,
Allegedly.
Alleged.
these guys probably want to get out. They're not that well capitalized. Steve's point about not wanting to partner with them in any way makes a lot of sense. Let's get them out of there and facilitate as best we can and as cost effectively we can the remediation of the site so that it can reach its sort of true potential from a revenue standpoint. That the current owners are not the guys that we want to do it. That's clear. Either because they can't or because they don't want to, or because they're incompetent. So let's just, I think this makes a lot of sense to settle it this way. We can argue about whether it's the right price. If I'm them, I'm pretty happy with the deal, but that doesn't mean it's a bad deal for us. So to me, it sounds like this is a good move.
So it's easy money for the contractor for sure.
Well, they would produce items that they're basically breaking even.
Right.
Well, they all do that, Steve, but yeah.
I'm just saying, I've seen them. I don't agree with them, but I've seen them.
I believe they'll pay around $750 in taxes this year. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, now we do have to, like, this is a line item, right? So.
Yeah.
Can I just say one more thing, Doug?
Sure.
That my sense is, according to the DEP, that the cap is not going to be like a paper cap. It's going to be something, clay and whatever and engineered to actually do the job. It's not going to be some half, baked deal. Is that
Correct.
fair to say?
Yes.
All right.
And it's not to say if we put in townhouses or whatever, that we couldn't put a parking garage or some facility over that as part of the cap.
Well, it depends what the use limitations are on it. I think that it would probably not be allowed there, but I'm not an engineer.
Okay.
So.
I move
Do
to vote.
Yeah, this is a vote that we're moved, and do we have I think we lost our motioner.
Right, I'm ready.
All right. Oh, no, there you go.
I move the sum of $2,065,000 to be borrowed for the purposes of Article 7.
I think you also want to, Joe, if I hate to do this, but also that we would, also the $85,000 insurance policy would also be used.
From available funds.
Yeah, from available funds.
Okay,
Second,
Discussion, any more? All in favor?
I think you need to do a roll call on this one, Doug.
Okay, oh yeah, we can do a roll call. Dennis?
Yes.
Yes. Dan?
yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Teray?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Gerard?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Stefan?
No.
All right. Don?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes, please.
Joe?
yes.
Evan?
Yes.
Okay. Was that 13-1?
Yes,
All alone.
Excellent.
thank you.
It's a lovely place to be, Stefan.
Doug's been there many times.
Yeah. Come on in, the water's fine. All right, so
All right.
we are at Finance Committee, we are at Article 8, Sustainable Food Containers and Packaging.
Poor Julie, it was her option. She decided to stay all the way through.
You know,
Yeah, having fun. It's a slow night.
I
Both
can't watch any
articles,
more news.
yeah, the news is all bad all over the world today. Articles 8 and 9 are articles that are in front of the Finance Committee solely because there are potential fines attached to them. So I guess it's a potential revenue stream. And that's why our policy has been that the Finance Committee does opine on them for that purpose. In each case, before Julie gets to them, there are, 3 levels of fines. I think it's 100 first offense, 200 second offense, 300 third offense, and thereafter. I will tell you, in items like this, much like the snow and ice removal ones that we have done, there are very, very few times, if any, that fines are issued by me or by my office, because really, what I really would like to have is I want the bad behavior to stop. Both of these items are regarding improving the environment. Environmental Sustainability Committee has looked at them, but that's why they're in front of the Finance Committee. So now I'll turn it over to Julie, that she can discuss them briefly. Julie.
Well, no, I don't think I have a whole lot more to add, except that the first offense is a warning.
Warning, yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah.
Because.
They don't get to
and-
vote on warnings.
Right, and they're harmonized for both articles. And both have Steve, or the town administrator, as enforcement. So obviously one is a reduction of styrofoam for takeout containers primarily in town, and the other is an expansion on the plastic bags to restaurants for takeout, as well as making straws and stirrers and plastic cutlery request only. So no problem being given out, just being requested. So, I mean, that's essentially it. Our intention here is to really, given COVID, given the businesses situation that they're in, is to give businesses a long lead time on this and lots of discretion as well, but to try to get this on the books now.
Yeah. Effective date would be June 30th, 2021.
We've reached out to the chamber. They've surveyed their members. As you can imagine, some are okay, some are not thrilled with it. The consensus seems to be, and I don't want to put words in their mouth, but Saugus and Melrose and most of the surrounding communities have these rules already in place. And so a lot of the feedback is, we know it's coming. We'd rather know the rules than not know the rules, and be able to kind of have some flexibility with it. So even though it is a June effective date, Steve, as the enforcer, if for some reason they can't, or there's not supplies on the market, or it's cost prohibitive given other situations, then Steve has full discretion to waive that deadline,
To extend it for 6 months.
to extend it.
you know, I believe, Dan, do you want to do a question now, or do you want to do it during discussion?
Oh, whatever.
You can do it. You can go now. I assume it's a question for Julie or Steve. And are we limited to discussing fines only, or the validity of the whole
Well,
thing?
you can discuss anything, but the FinCom's role and vote in this is limited, is really only because there are fines involved.
Okay.
So,
Go ahead, Dan.
so my question, and I didn't read all the gory details, I will admit, in Article 8. But in Maine, during the COVID-19, and somewhat still some stores, grocery stores would not allow you to bring your own bags in for the groceries. That they packed in those, non-reusable thin plastic bags. So what in this allows those, for COVID-19 kind of pandemics, where we're trying to deal with the virus, where the state says, by the way, you can't bring your own bags in because of the virus. Is there an out in these articles for that?
Well, I mean, we already had that situation with the bags. So when the state mandate comes down, that usurps our rules, Steve. That's my understanding.
That's correct. When the state, one of two things could happen. The state is under a emergency order, okay? And they can basically kind of waive, the general bylaws, local bylaws like this, which is what they did with plastic bags in Massachusetts. I mean, Shaw's went back to plastic bags. For instance, Shaw's did not, they didn't even want your own bags being brought into the store during the beginning of COVID. And that was the governor set that. He set an end date. When that end date came, then you can bring in then our bylaw went back into effect. Shaw's still, just to give you what their deal is, they require that if you bring your own reusable bags in, you need to fill them yourself. They're not going to touch anything that came from your home. That's a store policy there.
Yeah, right.
But-
That's common here too.
So the governor can override that in a state of emergency.
Thank you.
That our Board of Health
Unless
could
it's
as well.
SJC decides otherwise, and there's a case.
Well,
up
and
there.
I think, if for some reason Wakefield wanted to be stricter than the state rules, we have an emergency in
Right.
place right now at a local level, we could do the same thing, or we could take direction from the Board of Health and we would suspend it. And public health clearly takes precedent.
Correct.
Largely because I'd get shot in my own house if I commented on this, but I do think that like recycling theater is generally a waste of time, sort of like a lot of the hygiene theater that went on with COVID. I think the notion of eliminating cutlery is mildly insane, but it's not saving much of anything, and the straws and the turtles, whatever. But in terms of how we're gonna find these people, again, you said you're gonna, essentially it's a warning, and probably from
Right.
Steve is sort of saying it's a second warning and whatnot. I guess from our standpoint, and Article 8 certainly looked, and I guess my concern is for restaurants that are already being devastated. They're already having a hard time staying open. Why are we going to go after, why are we going to create another headache for them? Why are we going to make things harder for both the restaurant community and frankly for the takeout people right now? It just seems like this is a silly hill to climb today.
Well, we tabled it from the spring, and again, are really trying to give some discretion and a long lead time. We have been through the whole list of every restaurant in town that we give a license to. I can't say we've talked to every single one of them, but many of them are already doing this. As I said, Saugus is doing it, Melrose is doing it. This really kind of make sure everybody's playing by the same rules.
I'm confused. What's my Chinese takeout gonna come in? If it's not
Paper.
coming in a plastic container?
It's coming with
Plastic is
paper.
fine under this. It's just styrofoam.
Oh, okay, so it's just the styrofoam. I
Yeah, it's just
polyethylene,
styrofoam.
like, I don't know. Okay,
Yeah,
so that's the
it's
styrofoam.
just the
When you-
styrofoam.
And if you request, they can't give you plastic knives and forks, but you can request them.
Well, you can request them.
Yeah, no. I'm
And they
just-
can ask you even, do you want?
No, and I don't want them. We've got plenty, presumably I have knives and forks at home. Okay, all right, you can be on board.
Yeah, I mean, and things like early harvest, they've been putting straws on their table in a cup, so you get it yourself. That is self-selecting to get it, just not
Yeah, no,
your
I'm with
drink
that.
when you get it.
The paper straw thing kills me right now, but that's a separate issue. All right. Well, no, I guess this is the motion to make rule for favorable action on the.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I do have
Oh.
have an additional question here. Can I?
You've got the hand raising capability too, though, so.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't do that. I'm sorry. To just put this in a nutshell, are we sort of strengthening the teeth of the plastic bag bill that we already have? Is that what this is?
So yes, Article 9 is strengthening that. Essentially so that restaurants are exempt right now under the bylaw or the code that was passed in 2017. So it extends it to restaurant takeout. It keeps all the other exemptions in place. The dry cleaning exemption, the produce bags. What it does do also is not allow retailers or restaurants to use the thicker plastic. To our knowledge, there's really nobody using the thicker plastic in town except CVS continues to give out crazy size bags in super thick plastic as single use.
And how dare they? Mr. Mayo, do you know what, or perhaps,
They can't give the long receipt. That's really what I want to do. No
Yeah,
long.
You can do that online. You
Mr.
can get
Mayo
that-
or Counselor, what happens to our trash right now in Wakefield? Or our recycling or the plastic bags, they either go into the trash or the recycling. The proper thing with the thin plastic bags is actually the trash, right?
It's absolutely the
Recycle
trash, and our trash gets
Okay.
incinerated.
It's incinerated. Okay.
Yep,
So
it's
what's-
incinerated, which puts toxins into the air.
Okay. I'm just gonna tell you now, rather than keeping everybody here, I'm just going to vote no on this. I kind of don't care what
Fine.
anybody's answer is. I think to Doug's point, this is the absolute last time in the last, it's the last moment we should possibly be thinking about increasing restrictions on businesses who are really trying to make it by. In fact, I think our good friend Joe Biden was the one to teach me that 1 out of every 5 small businesses in America has gone under in the last few months. This is the last time to add expenses like this. So I'm glad it came here because of a technicality and there are fines involved. I don't want to generate any more revenue by penalizing businesses.
Well, Steve, how much revenue have we generated off of a bag bylaw that's been in place for almost 3 years?
0.
Exactly. This is not a revenue generating exercise. This is,
Listen,
I think it helps the businesses, at least because we're going to be on par and eventually this will be a state issue probably as well. But we're also looking at climate change and, we can help the businesses, but we've got 10 years to fix climate change.
Okay. I heard that in
We're never gonna
2000,
agree on this,
but
so
that's
that's
fine.
fine.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm actually old enough to remember hearing that in 2000, that we only had 10 years.
Well,
But
look at the data.
that's fine.
now.
That's all well and good. I'm just telling you from my perspective as a FinCom member, that's the only reason I make the revenue generator part. I'm definitely voting no for much bigger reasons.
Completely respect that.
You ready for a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Sure. Ready for a motion.
Article 8.
I move favorable action on Article 8.
I'll second.
I think we probably have to do a roll call for this as well. Dennis?
Yes.
I'll vote no. I'll be with Evan on this. Dan?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Teray?
Yes.
Gerard?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Brian? I'm gonna assume that's a yes. Stefan?
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Joanne,
No.
Evan,
No.
Bill.
No.
All right. 4 no's.
4 no's, 9 yeses. 11 yeses, no, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 yeses.
10 yeses.
Who's missing?
The chairman.
No,
Oh,
I
of
said
course,
no.
Jim.
Oh, wait.
Jim.
Oh, yeah, very good, okay. Fine.
I mean, do I get to vote for the real chairman as well? Do I get his proxy? Um, It always felt like that when Dan was. What else do we have? I think is that committee comments.
No, no, no,
Oh,
wait.
so actually
wait, wait.
Jim had
This is
asked me
Article 8,
to
you also
delay
wanna-
on that one until, I think people should.
Don't we have to vote on number 9 too?
Yeah. Yeah, Doug.
We-
Doug,
Oh,
just
did we
Doug.
not do number 9? Oh,
No,
I
you
thought
did
we
number 8
the
only, you
launch.
did not do number.
Okay.
I'll move favorable action on Article 9.
I'll second.
Okay, again, probably a roll. Dennis?
Yes.
I'll vote yes on this one. I don't mind the plastic reduction. I just don't like my bags. Dan,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
that's right.
Yes.
Gerard, David,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Brian. I'm gonna guess yes on that. Stefan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Joanne,
No.
Bill.
No.
Yes.
Evan,
Oh, Bill?
No.
the Bill said yes. Evan, no. Joanne, no. Any other no's?
Nope, 12-2 on this one.
Just 2.
Okay.
All right. Jim had asked me, committee comments. He and I haven't sort of sat down. I know a couple of people have probably reached out to both me and him around possible committee assignments. We should have those squared away, and we'll send something out next week, and then we'll send out a preliminary, and then you can also like chime in if you hate the people you're assigned to, then we'll make you work it out. And I think that's all. And I guess now it's entertaining a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Seconded.
Yeah, there you go. You can vote by turning yourself off.
Thank you.